Welcome to the future.
Welcome to 1337, the future of podcasts of longevity. I'm Max, your host, exploring the science of living longer.
And I'm Sophia, diving into health hacks and ageless living tips. We're here to uncover the secrets to a vibrant, extended life.
You know, I was making a smoothie the other day, and as I was rinsing out the blender, it kind of hit me. I'm surrounded by plastic. It's in our food containers, our appliances, even our clothes. And that got me thinking, how much of this stuff is actually ending up inside of us?
It's a great question, and one that scientists are increasingly concerned about. Today, we're doing a deep dive into the world of microplastics, those tiny, often invisible particles that are practically everywhere, and what they might be doing to our health and longevity. We'll be unpacking some fascinating insights from an interview with Dr. Rhonda Patrick, a leading expert on aging and nutrition.
So let's get to it. First things first, how are these microplastics getting everywhere? I mean, I know plastic breaks down, but I never really thought about where it goes.
Well, it's not just about plastic breaking down. Microplastics are actually shed from a surprising number of sources. Think about the tires on your car, the synthetic fibers in your clothing, even the packaging your food comes in. They're all constantly releasing microscopic bits of plastic into the environment.
Wow, I never realized it was that widespread. So these tiny particles are just floating around in the air, ending up in the water. It kind of makes you think twice about taking a deep breath.
It really does. And here's the thing, those tiny particles don't just stay in the environment. We're breathing them in, drinking them in our water, and even consuming them in our food. You've probably heard that statistic about people consuming a credit card's worth of plastic every week.
Yeah, that one made headlines. It's a pretty disturbing image. But is it really true?
Well, Dr. Patrick actually debunks that myth a bit. She explains that while the study behind it was peer-reviewed, it's really difficult to calculate the exact amount of microplastics we consume, because the particles vary so much in size, and the studies often use microplastics found in the ocean, which aren't necessarily representative of what we're ingesting from our food or tap water.
Okay, so maybe we're not swallowing a whole credit card every day, but we're still definitely consuming some amount of plastic, right? What happens to those microplastics once they're inside us?
That's where it gets really interesting and a bit concerning. Studies have shown that these microplastics can actually accumulate in various organs, including the brain. And get this, the accumulation rate in the brain seems to be 10 to 20 times higher than in other organs.
The brain. Seriously, it's kind of terrifying. How are they even getting up there?
Inhalation seems to be the main culprit. When you breathe in those tiny particles, they can bypass the blood-brain barrier, that protective shield around your brain, through your olfactory system, which is basically your sense of smell. So in a way, you're sniffing plastic particles straight into your brain.
That is definitely not what I want to be sniffing. And it makes you wonder, what kind of impact is that having?
Well, researchers are still trying to fully understand the long-term consequences of microplastic accumulation in the brain. But some studies have found correlations between microplastics and neurodegenerative diseases like Alzheimer's. One study found that individuals with Alzheimer's had 10 times more microplastics in their brains than those without the disease.
10 times. Huh. Wow. And while correlation isn't causation, that's still a pretty alarming statistic.
It is. And when you consider that animal studies have shown that microplastics in the brain can cause chronic inflammation, which is a key factor in brain aging and neurodegenerative diseases, it definitely raises some red flags.
Okay, so we've got these tiny pieces of plastic floating around in our bodies, potentially wreaking havoc. But it's not just the plastic itself that's a concern, right? There are also those chemicals they can leach.
Exactly. Dr. Patrick talks about these endocrine-disrupting chemicals, or EDCs, which are essentially chemicals that mimic hormones in the body. Some of the most common EDCs found in plastic are BPA, BPS, and phthalates.
Okay, I've definitely heard of BPA. It seems like every other product these days is labeled BPA-free. But what exactly are these EDCs doing in our bodies?
They can cause a whole host of problems, including hormone disruption, reproductive issues, and even developmental problems in children. For instance, Dr. Patrick highlights a study that found women with high BPA levels are 6 times more likely to have a child diagnosed with autism.
6 times? That's a significant increase. Are there other examples like that?
There are. Phthalates, which are often found in personal care products and some plastics, are linked to undescended testicles and hypospadias in boys, conditions that affect the urinary tract and can even impact fertility later in life.
Wow, I had no idea the effects were so far-reaching. And what about BPA? We hear so much about how bad it is. But what's the real impact on adults?
Well, BPA exposure is linked to a number of issues in adults, including lower testosterone levels in men.
Okay, guys, listen up. Low testosterone can impact your energy levels, muscle mass, even your mood. This is definitely something to be aware of. It's not just a women's health issue. These chemicals affect everyone. So where are we encountering these EDCs most often?
Well, we already talked about bottled water being a source of microplastics, but it's also important to be mindful of how you're heating your food. Even if a container is labeled BPA-free, heating it can still release microplastics and other harmful chemicals into your food and drinks.
So no more microwaving leftovers in those takeout containers.
Right. And speaking of hot beverages, be careful with tea bags. Many are made from plastic, and steeping them in hot water can release millions, sometimes even billions, of microplastics into your cup.
Billions? That's insane. I'm a big tea drinker, so this is definitely making me rethink my choices. What are some other surprising sources of microplastics and EDCs that we might not be aware of?
One that Dr. Patrick brings up is black plastic. It's often made from recycled electronics and can contain high levels of carcinogens and endocrine disruptors. You'll find it in things like black utensils, takeout containers, even the bottom of those rotisserie chicken containers.
Black plastic. I never would have guessed.
It's not something most people think about. And another common culprit is receipts. Those thermal paper receipts are often coated with BPA, which can be absorbed through your skin.
I remember reading about that. It's crazy to think something as simple as a receipt could be exposing us to harmful chemicals.
It is. Dr. Patrick actually shares a funny story about being at the airport and feeling compelled to tell the cashier about BPA being on the receipts. He was pretty surprised.
I can imagine. It's not something that's widely talked about. But it does make you wonder, with microplastics and EDCs seemingly everywhere, is there anything we can do to protect ourselves?
There is. While it's impossible to avoid plastic entirely, there are practical steps you can take to minimize your exposure. One of the most important is investing in a reverse osmosis water filter. It's one of the best ways to remove microplastics and even those tiny nanoplastics from your drinking water.
That makes sense. Clean water is the foundation of a healthy life. So a good water filter is definitely a must-have. What else can we do?
Whenever possible, choose glass over plastic for food storage, utensils, water bottles, everything. And limit canned foods, as cans are often lined with BPA, which can leach into the food, especially when heated.
So ditch the plastic, ditch the cans, and embrace glass and fresh ingredients. I can get behind that. Any other tips?
When it comes to clothing, opt for natural fibers like cotton or bamboo. And you can also use high-quality HEPA filters in your home to help capture those airborne microplastics.
It's wild to think about plastic particles floating around in the air we breathe, but it sounds like we're not completely defenseless. Our bodies have some natural ways of dealing with these intruders, right?
They do. Your body can actually get rid of microplastics to some extent.
That's a relief. How does that work?
Dietary fiber plays a key role. It binds to microplastics in your gut, preventing them from being absorbed into your bloodstream and helping your body eliminate them.
So all the more reason to load up on those fruits, veggies, and whole grains.
Exactly. Fiber is a superhero when it comes to gut health and detoxification.
It sounds like we're not just talking about avoiding plastic, but also supporting our body's natural defenses so they can better handle the inevitable exposures we face.
Absolutely. It's a two-pronged approach. Minimizing contact and bolstering your defenses.
This has been a fascinating deep dive so far. It's definitely eye-opening to realize just how pervasive microplastics are in our lives. But the good news is we're not powerless. We can make informed choices to minimize our exposure and support our body's natural detoxification processes.
That's a key takeaway. You can't completely avoid microplastics, but you can make choices that reduce your risk. On a healthy lifestyle, a balanced diet, regular exercise, and a focus on natural products can go a long way in protecting your health and longevity.
Well said. And for those of you listening, we'll be diving deeper into those lifestyle strategies and more in just a moment. Stay tuned. So we've talked about how to minimize exposure to microplastics and those pesky EDCs. But it sounds like it's just as important to focus on building our body's resilience.
You got it. It's not just about what you avoid, but how well your body handles what it can't avoid.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
After all, there's no way to live a completely plastic-free life, especially in the modern world.
Exactly. So instead of getting caught up in trying to achieve the impossible, it's better to focus on building up your defenses.
Okay, I like that approach. It feels a lot more empowering than just feeling overwhelmed by all the things we're supposed to avoid. So how do we build up those defenses?
Well, we've already touched on some key strategies. A healthy diet rich in fiber is a great place to start. It not only helps your body eliminate those microplastics, but it also supports a healthy gut microbiome, which is crucial for overall health and immunity.
Right, we talked about fiber being like a superhero for binding to those microplastics in the gut.
Exactly. And regular exercise is another powerful tool. It helps improve circulation, boost your metabolism, and even enhance your body's natural detoxification processes.
So getting those sweat sessions in isn't just about looking good or feeling energized. It's about creating a more resilient system that can handle those inevitable microplastic exposures.
Precisely. And don't forget about targeted supplementation. We mentioned sulforaphane earlier, which is found in cruciferous vegetables like broccoli sprouts. It's a potent antioxidant that can help activate your body's natural detoxification pathways.
So it's like giving yourselves an extra boost to fight off those toxins.
Yeah.
Are there any other lifestyle factors that play a role in building resilience?
Absolutely. Managing stress is huge. Chronic stress can wreak havoc on your gut health. Actually, increasing intestinal permeability. You might have heard of it referred to as leaky gut.
Oh yeah, I've heard that term before. But how does leaky gut tie into all of this?
Well, leaky gut means that the lining of your intestines becomes more permeable, allowing things like undigested food particles, toxins, and, yes, even microplastics to slip into your bloodstream.
Ah, I see the connection. So stress can actually make us more vulnerable to the harmful effects of microplastics.
Exactly. So finding healthy ways to manage stress, whether it's through mindfulness, meditation, spending time in nature, or whatever works for you, can actually play a role in protecting you from those harmful effects.
Wow, I never thought of it that way. It really highlights how interconnected our health is. It's not just about what we eat or what we filter out of our water, but also about our overall mental and emotional well-being.
It's all connected. Think of it like building a fortress. You want strong walls, like avoiding plastic as much as possible. But you also need a well-equipped army inside your body's natural defenses to fight off any invaders that manage to get through.
I love that analogy. So a healthy lifestyle isn't just about looking good or feeling energetic. It's about creating a resilient system that can handle the inevitable challenges of modern life, including microplastic exposure.
Exactly. And that's where things like prioritizing sleep, managing stress, and cultivating strong social connections all come into play.
It's fascinating how all of these seemingly separate aspects of health are actually intertwined.
They are.
Yeah.
And when you start to see those connections, it becomes easier to make healthy choices that have a ripple effect across your entire well-being.
So if someone is feeling overwhelmed by all this talk about microplastics, what's the most important thing they can do?
Don't panic. Remember, knowledge is power. Now that you're aware of the potential risks, you can start making small, sustainable changes to protect yourself. Focus on what you can control.
Right, like swapping out that plastic water bottle for a glass one, or opting for loose leaf tea instead of those plastic-laden tea bags.
Exactly. Those small changes add up over time. And when you combine them with a healthy lifestyle, you're creating a powerful shield against the harmful effects of microplastics.
This has been a really eye-opening deep dive. I'm definitely going to be paying more attention to the plastic in my life now. But I'm also feeling empowered, knowing that there are steps I can take to protect myself.
That's the spirit. It's all about making informed choices and focusing on what you can control. And remember, you don't have to do it all at once. Start with one small change and build from there.
Great advice. So we've covered a lot of ground today. We talked about how microplastics get into our bodies, the potential health risks they pose, and what we can do to minimize our exposure.
We've also discussed the importance of a holistic approach, strengthening your body's resilience through a healthy diet, regular exercise, stress management, and other lifestyle factors.
Right. It's all about building up those defenses so you can handle whatever life throws at you, including those pesky microplastics.
Exactly. And the good news is, your body's remarkably adaptable. By making conscious choices and supporting your overall health, you can minimize the impact of microplastics and live a long, vibrant life.
You know, one thing that really struck me while we were talking about those microplastics is just how much we're still learning about them.
It's true. Microplastics are a relatively new area of research. We've known about plastic pollution for decades, but it's only recently that scientists have started to understand the potential health implications of these tiny particles.
And as we've discussed, the research so far is pretty concerning. Then science is always evolving, right?
Absolutely. What we know today may be different tomorrow. That's the nature of scientific inquiry.
So what are some of the big unanswered questions that researchers are still trying to figure out?
Well, one of the biggest questions is the long-term impact of microplastic accumulation in the body. We know they can trigger inflammation and disrupt hormones, but what are the cumulative effects over time? How does long-term exposure impact our health as we age? Those are questions we don't have definitive answers to yet.
And what about those specific effects on the brain? The link to Alzheimer's disease is particularly worrisome.
Absolutely. Researchers are still working to understand the mechanisms by which microplastics might contribute to neurodegenerative diseases. It's a complex issue with many factors at play.
It almost feels like we're living in a giant, uncontrolled experiment.
In a way, we are. We're exposed to these microplastics every day, and we're just beginning to understand the potential consequences. That's why it's so important to stay informed and make choices that protect our health.
So what can we do?
Yeah.
Aside from all the lifestyle changes we talked about, is there anything else on the horizon? Are scientists working on solutions to this problem?
They are. Researchers are exploring various strategies to address the microplastic problem at its source. This includes developing biodegradable plastics and improving waste management systems to prevent plastic from entering the environment in the first place.
That's encouraging. It sounds like a multifaceted approach is needed.
Definitely. And it's not just up to scientists and policymakers. We all have a role to play.
Absolutely. Even small changes in our daily habits can make a difference.
Exactly. By reducing our consumption of single-use plastics, supporting companies that prioritize sustainability, and advocating for policies that address plastic pollution, we can create a healthier future for ourselves and generations to come.
Well said. This deep dive has definitely given me a lot to think about and a lot of motivation to make some changes in my own life.
Me too. It's always inspiring to explore these cutting-edge topics and learn how we can empower ourselves to live longer, healthier lives.
That's what this podcast is all about. So for those of you listening, we hope you found this deep dive into the world of microplastics informative and empowering.
Don't forget to visit 1337podcast.com for more deep dive and tips on living longer and healthier.
And don't forget to subscribe to our podcast so you don't miss our future deep dives into the science of longevity.
Thanks for listening.
We'll see you next time. Strength and honor. I am Spartacus.
Thanks for watching. Tap into 1337podcast.com.